So some places you struggle to find candidates, but Ward 3, you have 4 candidates in the mix, and one of them with us now, Bert Holloway. Bert, thanks for stopping by.
Thank you, sir. Glad to be here.
All right. Now, what inspired you to get in this race?
So I think that being a part of a small town like Litchfield is very valuable in the sense that you can have real influence. You can make decisions that really are going to impact our community, whether it be the youth, our elderly population, or someone of my generation. You have real impact versus, running for a Senate seat or a House Representative seat. So I find value in running for a local election because it's going to be impactful.
Interest in politics is nothing new to you. I mean, some folks, you're in your 30s, if I have it right.
Yes, sir.
Some folks, they're just starting to say, boy, I've got a property tax bill. I'm just starting to open my eyes to that world. But you're a student of the game, been at it for a while.
Yeah, so I went to Hillsborough High School. I graduated in 2011 and had the hopes and dreams to go to law school, and in the process fell in love with the discipline of political science at SIUE, and I've continued that education on to UIS now, where I'm a thesis away from my master's degree. And so the study of politics is very interesting. You learn a lot. But it's very different from actually running. So, I'm learning both sides of the coin here.
It's interesting because it's changed in just the time from when you went to college to now in a big way.
Absolutely. You look at how divisive and chaotic the 2016 election was, for president and everything that's happened in between. It's a completely different dynamic in the political atmosphere. And so going door to door as I have in this campaign, in this election, it's interesting to see the crossover between national politics and local politics.
And local politics, I mean, the national political level, we talk about some things sometimes that are heavy on emotion, and almost when it comes to local politics, it's almost like grabbing your toolbox and taking care of business. It's a whole different mindset, making sure the lights are on and infrastructure is doing what it needs to do, what have you.
Sure. So I think going back to what I said earlier about having impact, Litchfield is it's a beautiful town. It's a little town. It's a safe place to raise your family. But what we need to look to do as a city council, and what I hope to be able to do as a Ward 3 alderman, if elected here April 1st, is focus on our youth. I think that in order to draw families in and draw businesses in, one of the things that parents look for is what is there to do around the area for my child. And I think getting then, when those children become adults, is getting them to stay here, right, and raise their family here. You got to have the infrastructure stuff fixed, right? You got to have jobs that will allow and retain our own. And I think that's the important part about this election is there's so many things and so many issues that are near and dear to our community that need to be addressed. And I think that's why you're seeing 4 candidates run, is because there's not only just myself, but the other candidates have ideas as well. And I think, again, you can see and have the most impact at that local level and get some of that stuff done.
Any Ward 3 specific issues you've identified that you'd hope to address or help along?
So one of the things going door to door and talking to the Ward 3 constituents is you wouldn't believe how many people are upset about Litchfield no longer doing transfers. Okay, so no longer does Litchfield, if there's a serious issue that can't be taken care of by a local hospital, we have to wait on a surrounding town or community to provide assistance to get us to St. Louis or is, and I put this on my door hangers for those of you that have received them in Ward 3, I think we must expand the hiring area for our fire department and our street department, because I understand the importance of hiring and preferring local people, right? That's important, but we shouldn't turn down a good quality candidate that's capable or wants to work for the city of Litchfield, and in doing so, it will reduce the overtime expense and the burnout effect on our city employees, on the fire department or street department that are feeling that. And I think that if we can hire more and bring down their overtime, bring down their burnout, we could also do something like bring back transfers. I think that's important. I also think it's important, and it's a hot topic, fixing infrastructure. We don't have all the answers. It's going to take some outside perspective. It's going to take consultants. It's going to take engineers, and it's going to take time. We want to get to work on that right away, but it's a 20 to 30 year probably project that's going to need to be completed. But we got to start somewhere, and it's going to be costly, and there's going to be all things and kinds of financial burdens. I'm aware of that, but it needs to be addressed for not only for our current situation but future generations.
Well, I can imagine there's a lot of value to those door-to-door conversations. And I know that's tougher to do because when I was a kid, someone coming to your door was no big deal. Like someone calling you on the phone was no big deal. Now it's, who's there? If they're not Amazon or DHL or UPS, it's like, people get a little uptight. So it's like you kind of, there's a science there to get people to, number one, say, come on in, and then have a conversation and get past all of those barriers.
You wouldn't believe, Sean, how many non-soliciting things are on people's doors. I didn't realize that until going door to door. And yeah, when you go door to door, sometimes it's people don't like that interaction, and it's a strange thing because your generation versus mine, people have sort of lost, in my opinion, that identity to want to help others or want to have that community mentality. And so when they see someone at your door, they instantly think, oh, this guy's trying to sell me something. And no, I just, the importance of going door to door is to have that conversation, right? And I call it looking in the whites of somebody's eyes. And to me, it's very important because if you're going to represent the community, you're going to represent the ward, you're going to represent the city of Litchfield, you should know who these people are and what their issues are, right? So I genuinely bring a notebook, and I just start by saying, listen, I'm not trying to sell you anything, but local politics has the biggest impact. What is it that, if elected, I can do for you? What are some of those issues that you find to be the most important? And so that we can focus on that, right? Because if that's what the constituents want, that's where our focus needs to be.
Well, Gallup's not going to set up an office. I know sometimes you get some feedback in social media. Sometimes that's by people who are emotional on an issue, and people have opinions, would rather not put their name out there. So it's sometimes there's maybe a little accuracy, sometimes a little less. I don't know. It seems like an imperfect science. And the one thing that I, sitting here right now, that I wonder about, really couldn't get an answer unless I went extensively door to door. There were the stormy times when Tanya Flannery left the city payroll, and the sports park was voted down. And that was certainly contentious, and there were certainly outspoken people on both sides of the issue. I wonder how many people weren't that opinionated. That's one thing I can't calculate. And then months later, is that something that's still relevant as people head to the polls? Does that come up much at all? I mean, I realize soccer parents are probably still going to be passionate on that front, but outside of that, is that just in the rearview mirror for people?
Yes and no, right? I've had constituents say, they ask what I know about it, or maybe what could be done about it. To be quite honest with you, that was a topic that was held and done with in the past. Whether it can be brought back up, I'm not entirely sure about that. What I do know is, in response to that, is I coach soccer for LISA in Litchfield, So, and all my kids play. So I know how dear it is to some people on that issue. And so I brought this up in the debate forum at Lincoln Land earlier this month, and that is, if that issue is behind us, right? If it is an issue that we can't revive, or if it's an issue that has no traction any longer, what we should be looking to do, to me, is work with community programs like TLC and Litchfield, Together Litchfield Can, and empowering these organizations to do things like with our current soccer, I guess you could call it, park out at the community center in Litchfield. There's flooding issues out there. There's no bathrooms. There's no concession stands. There's things that can be addressed out there that could be handled. And I would like to maybe just turn the page and focus on, instead of maybe the past, what can we do moving forward for our youth? And
that's where maybe I come back to, talking about how, if those feelings are still there, it really is in many, in just about every respect in the past. And my question beyond that is, there was ramped up interest in the Litchfield City Council. Do you think that people now are paying more attention to city government?
Yes, I think the microscope that is on this current council has never been greater. It's definitely, I think we're seeing it in the participation. I think there's only one. I think Ward 2 is the only unopposed alderman position. And so that tells you about just what people think. And I think people are coming around to understand that, hey, you can do this and you can make a difference. And if it maybe isn't as an alderwoman or alderman, then we look at ways to involve yourself in the community. The Litchfield Chamber of Commerce is a great organization. The TLC, the Together Litchfield Can, is a great organization. There's plenty of opportunities out there. And the unique thing, nobody really talks about this, but the unique thing about the city council is there's so many different facets. Like, the city council, in comparison to other towns in Litchfield, doesn't control everything, right? You have the park district. You have all these other organizations that are independently run things. And I think that's important. And people can participate in those programs and those organizations. And I think it takes a community of volunteerism. And I think it takes people stepping up to the plate, staying focused, staying interested in politics, local politics, that is, because it matters.
Economic development. What are your thoughts there? There's certainly been a lot said there when you talk about the infrastructure needed to get it done. I know there's been some headway made with Ameren and connecting the gas and all of that, but like how we finance, how we the mindset on economic development. What's your view on how Litchfield should go forward? I realize that's a goalpost that moves a little bit with the times.
Certainly. So we'll start with a bigger picture here. I liken the city to human anatomy, in the sense that what is the core focus of, or where should our focus be in the city? And then, to me, the heartbeat of a city is downtown. And for many years, we focused on the extremities of the city, right? Building $1 million subdivisions out by the lake, or building industrial commercial parks out across the interstate. And I think, so for economic development, I think we need to focus more in the heart and soul of our city, right? Hillsborough has done a great job of that. Again, that's where I'm from. They have a beautiful downtown that has been brought forth by Imagine Hillsborough. TLC is the counterpart to that for Litchfield. And so there's plenty of opportunities for economic development. And I think, since we're so far down the road on the development out west across the interstate, we got to continue down that path to some degree. We got to bring businesses and jobs into the city. But don't forget about our downtown. That is the heart and soul.
Thoughts on public safety, current police and fire protection, how that works, and anything you'd like to see done differently or expanded or improved, enhanced, however you look at it.
So I think that's kind of going back to a previous point, is expanding that hiring area for our fire department and our street department, I think is crucial. if we're going to fix some of the roads, we're going to fix some of the sidewalks, which to me go hand in hand with public safety, right? There's so many streets, especially in the 3rd Ward, that are badly, badly damaged and that do not have sidewalks. Now imagine Litchfield High School is right next to Ward 3. There's children walking home. The middle school's right there. The children walking home from school. Let's give them a safe sidewalk to stay out of the roads. And I think that's important to Ward 3 constituents, along with fixing the roads. But we must expand our hiring area for the street department. We must fix it for the fire department. We should always back the blue, right? We should always take care of whatever needs to be taken care of as far as equipment, personnel, resources that our public safety officials need. We should encourage that. We should support them. They protect all of us one way or the other.
Well, city politics can be all guts, no glory when you deal with things like infrastructure. And it's hard, like on the federal end of things, maybe defense spending is equivalent as far as responsibility and the kind of percentages that can come into play, but it's hard to translate what you have to do locally to the state or federal level. I mean, that is a big pill to swallow when you say, you know what, we have to go with a new sewer, or we have to swap out all of these miles of water lines. Just your thoughts on infrastructure is like so many other towns. It's aging, and the hair's gone gray, and it's not always pretty underneath.
Yeah, it's a major issue that we all are faced with in the city of Litchfield, and it's not just specific to one ward or the other. It's the whole city, and it's been told to me that if you measured all of the roads in the city of Litchfield, it would amount to about 70 miles of road. So thinking about this on a mass scale in terms of what it's going to take, I don't think it's a far-fetched assessment to think that it's going to take hundreds of millions of dollars to do what needs to be done. You've got gray water and sewer water that are causing the current infrastructure below ground. It just can't handle it. It's too aged, it's too old. So we have to make a decision moving forward. What does that look like? Do we leave the current old infrastructure in the ground and use it for gray water and then put in an entire new sewer system on top of that? Or do we build one big enough to handle both? Either way, the road's going to have to be tore up in the process more than likely. That's going to involve repaving most of the roads in the city of Litchfield, which is a very, very, very overwhelming idea or thought that's going to have to be undertook. And it's not going to be, I know people want things done, but it's going to be an expensive one. And we're going to have to find ways, whether it be TIF funds, whether it be grant money, whether it be in our own budget, finding ways to cut some of maybe the spending that doesn't need to be spent to provide help towards this issue. We're going to have to get creative. And in doing so, this isn't going to be something that's going to be done overnight, right? This is going to be something that's going to be done probably over a 20-plus year period of time.
Editors note this interview came before the Litchfield City Council voted to reach an animal control agreement with Montgomery County. But some lingering issues will be found in this discussion with Bert. Well, we've had quite an extended discussion about animal control over the years, and it seems like it's like one of those TV shows where they've got the male and female lead, and they never quite kiss. And it's like, well, if we do that, the show's over. Animal control, it almost feels like that. It's like it seemed like we're on the verge of a deal for Litchfield, Hillsborough, and others, and it just doesn't quite happen. And I know there's been a lot said about the process of late. Just your thoughts on where we go next with animal control.
Well, we got an important city council meeting coming up here in the next week. It's going to say a lot about that direction of that. I think overwhelmingly the city of Litchfield wants animal control. We've been without animal control for a long period of time, far too long. And I think it would be a step in the right direction with the county, right? We are the largest town in the county. but we have a very bad relationship with the county. And I think this is a measure to take a step in that right direction. I think Jake Fleming and Josh Hughes, current alderman on this current city council, have done a great job to bring this idea up. I fully support it. I think most of the people in town support it. Here's the thing. It does not address every single issue, right, in regards to animal control, but it's a step in the right direction. I've heard many things brought up on this issue. Yes, it does not necessarily address the feral cat situation, right? We're going to have to do something else besides that. We are going to have to find a veterinarian to help us, right, with spay and neutering. There's other issues outside of what this county contract would have addressed, but nonetheless a step in the right direction, and I think we definitely need animal control. I think it's a definite issue that most people face.
How is being a veteran helpful? I know we have some folks here who, boy, I think of what the veterans have been through since 9/11. Some real difficult, difficult things to deal with in the rest of your life. People who have maybe a different value in human life than we do. It's a whole different world. And I know you come back, it's not the home front of old, and some people don't maybe have that deeper appreciation for what they've been through. It's like, hey, thank you for your service, but it's like, are you okay? Sometimes we think the soldier is so Teflon, and obviously they've seen a lot, they've been through a lot, and just your thoughts on how that could benefit your perspective when you talk about some of the social problems we deal with, because folks just come back and they may have all of their limbs, but almost psychologically they almost come back missing something.
Sure. I can speak to experience on that, Sean. It's I served 7 years in the Illinois Air National Guard, deployed all over the world, took a deployment to the Middle East, got to see firsthand what we were faced with, and some of the issues, and seen some of the people that come home and the difficulties that they still have. Got some friends that deal with that stuff every day. Luckily, I'm one of the blessed that got to come home and I don't have any of those issues, but it is a problem. You're right. I'm sitting here wearing a wristband 22 a day. There's 22 veterans on average a day commit suicide, and it's for all the things that they went through and all the struggles and all the things that they saw and dealt with, and then they come home and it's just not the same. They're missing something. And so, but not even just for veterans, but you look at things like drug addiction that goes on in our town, and the other issues that people are battling with mental health issues. The resources need to be there. Now, I don't think the city should be a developer. I don't think that they should be, a doctor's office either, but they should definitely support organizations. I think it's the Next Network there in Litchfield that's doing some great things. They should encourage and support those organizations to provide help to people that need it, whether it be a veteran coming home from a foreign war that's maybe just not the same, or it's someone that's deeply addicted to alcohol or drugs, right? Those people cannot be forgotten about, right? People can turn their lives around, people can change who they are, and they got to have a support system there. So we should absolutely support organizations that do those things.
Yeah, and I know a lot of folks, they just picture, okay, either you were in a war or you were not. Well, we've had, sometimes it doesn't make the papers, but we've had some moments people forget about where they have taken on dangerous missions without us in a full-blown war. I mean,
right.
Engaging the Houthis here recently.
Guatemala, I think, wasn't that?
Yeah.
I mean, that was another tactful battle that didn't last very long.
Yeah, and as you know, when you train for warfare and you're just on that, they've got you on that edge where you're ready for something. There's a lot of stress. I mean, when we've heard about live fire exercises and everything else, it is peacetime or war. There is stress being a veteran.
Absolutely. There's a lot on your shoulders being a veteran. You stop and think, I was a 17-year-old kid when I graduated early from Hillsborough High School, and I left for basic training and then went to civil engineering school in Gulfport, Mississippi, and graduated before my class even officially graduated in 2011. It's quite amazing that some of the things in the military, but hey, it gives you discipline, organization. It teaches you a lot of great things. It teaches you a trade in life. So there's a lot of good things that come with the military. But, stopping and thinking your average 17-year-old kid and what the military may be asking someone to do at that age it's quite daunting, right? And so I don't think you necessarily realize it as a 17-year-old kid, because I think at 17 we're all invincible. But when you get older, you start realizing I'm not so invincible, and but overwhelmingly, some have had it far more, worse than me in their military experience, and obviously some have given it their all, and it's just truly humbling and honoring to be a part of such a great military. It taught me so much. It is part of who I am today. It gives me the structure, discipline, and organization, and I take that to both my businesses that I own, right? That structure, and so it is a part of who I am. Thankfully, I don't have any scars from it, emotionally or physically. I know that there are some in our community that do, and so while we're on this subject, if you're that person and you need an ear or you need someone to talk to, reach out to me on Facebook. You can find me there, or my number's pretty much plastered all over at this point. So reach out. I'm always willing to listen and hear and have a conversation.
Well, I hope the telemarketers don't get a hold of it. That's another danger of running for office. But yeah, other than Cassidy Payne, it wasn't that long ago where if you looked at the horseshoe, as I like to call it, the mayor and the council, it wasn't exactly a place for the sub-AARP crowd. I mean, there was it's suddenly a very different look. And are you seeing more energy among folks in their 30s and maybe even younger interest? Because I know a lot of this stuff. You're talking about schematics, you're talking about technical stuff. If you get deep into a city council agenda, a lot of that stuff can go over your head. So I know it can be a little much to consume for someone who isn't paying attention meeting to meeting. Are you just seeing more awareness? I know we kind of talked about interest, but sure. People are just a little more plugged in and knowledgeable now. Yeah,
we're starting to see our city council get younger. Just in this last election 2 years ago, we're starting to slowly but surely see it get younger. I think that's important because as a generation matures, right, they should theoretically pass it off to the next. And I think the great thing that we're seeing is that next generation stepping up to the plate, right, and saying, I'm willing to serve. I'm willing to step up and be the guy or be the woman to represent the city and help make decisions for a better future. So I think it's very important, and I think we are seeing that on our city council. Now, I might argue come April 1st, let's continue that youth movement. Hopefully, let's continue to bring the young members on the council and support them, because I think it's very important for that next generation to be involved and know what it means to be involved and know the impact that you can have. And I think it's very important that even if you're not running or you're not involved in any organization, go out and vote. That is, we just spent a whole segment talking about the military. That is one of the most sacred freedoms and blessings that we have, and it is cherished and should be. And so go out. Each and every person has the right to voice their opinion, and they can do that at the ballot box. And so I think that's so important.
Yeah, I know there are people who seem to only be interested in federal stuff and are only federal and state stuff, but when you get down to what happens with your paycheck, so much of the fate of that paycheck is determined locally. Absolutely. And there's some people, they'll talk about, I don't like Trump, I love Trump, or I don't like Pritzker, I love Pritzker. and at the end of the day, they don't know, what's going on locally. They barely know who the mayor is. And I know if people, just for your own investment, you should be on top of it.
Absolutely. Both county and local city stuff is the most influential, right? They're going to determine, well, just the city of Litchfield, within the last year or so, 6 months to a year, have passed a new sales tax increase on the west side of town. So just stuff like that, property taxes, all these things affect your bottom dollar in your household. So it's very important that we pay attention to what's going on and who we're electing and exactly what their issues are. I was talking to you, Sean, about this before we went on air here, but I've been asked several times when I go door to door, the question has come up, well, who did you vote for in the previous, presidential election? And I was telling you, I find that so odd because regardless of who you voted for in the presidential election, to your point and your question, and that is local politics is what matters more than anything. They have more of a say on household income and bottom dollar than any presidential, candidate or senator candidate could. So just important that we all vote, we use our right, our freedom, and our expression to elect somebody not only as mayor but in all these wards that represent who we are as people in a community, and win or lose, we get behind whoever the winner is and we support them to the fullest.
Bert Holloway, thank you so much.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.